Hey, greetings there, everyone. Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we looked at Cycle of Hatred, and the bickering has moved to the neutral cities now in Ratchet between the orcs and the humans. And that's been stoked by the Burning Blade, but they clearly don't need a lot of incentive. So we'll see where that comes to a head. I feel like it's just kind of grinding out. The story's moving kind of slowly. And on the side path, we're still plugging away through the campaign, setting the World of Warcraft role-playing game for Dungeons and Dragons Revised 3rd Edition. Stay a while and listen as we continue with the fourth part. It's called Part 4, which is magic. And based on the way it's been going lately, I would say we'll probably bust out this whole part. Um, So it says magic in Warcraft. That was my guess. Chapter 14 is just describing, and this is um, a description. Let's actually read the history of some of this. We haven't read anything in a little bit, um, and let's just go with it. As a matter of fact, I kind of want to read this whole page. It says, whether it comes in the form of a healer's gentle touch or the wrath of a warlock's fiery rain, magic is a way of life in Azeroth. For good or evil, magic has infiltrated the world and shows no sign of leaving. The dark siren call of the arcane and the gentle but firm tapping of divine energies both color the world and affect its inhabitants. The way of magic is often a dangerous road to travel, yet most set out confidently on a journey that they do not expect to end in doom. The path of the arcane magic user is dark and questionable. Arcane power is undeniably the strongest magic branch. Arcanists can command elements, monsters, and even undead with their power. It was the use of these powers, however, that attracted the most destructive forces to Azeroth. Not once, but many times in the past 10,000 years. That I'm still not sure if that's canon or if that's been rewritten. I think it has. Even with history proving time and again that arcane use leads to damnation, there is no lack of arrogant new arcanists on Azeroth who believe that they can control the forces at work. Arcane magic users are usually high elves and humans. Demons are the masters of the arcane, and the Lich King and his Scourge spellcasters are also talented. The path of the divine is less fraught with paradox and doom. Arcane casters call it the weaker path, while divine casters calmly state that it is the subtler of the two. Focused on support magic and healing, adherents of the divine can also call down the destructive forces of nature. And this is divine with a flavor. There's no divine magic, per se. Divine practitioners are usually orcs, tauren, or night elves. Ironforged dwarves and humans also have their divine magic users. This chapter examines magic of both branches. Okay, so we'll start with arcane magic. Arcane magic has been in Azeroth as long as histories have been recorded. 10,000 years ago, the Kaldorei, beings now called Night Elves, maintained the Arcane Well of Eternity, a massive pool of pure liquid magic. The well was responsible for transforming the simple beings living nearby into the intelligent and immortal Kaldorei. The well, and all of its various incarnations, has been indirectly responsible for all three of the wars to tear Azeroth and the Orcs' homeworld of Durotar apart. That's true. It's not wrong. History. 10,000 years ago, the corrupt Queen Ajara of the Kaldorei and her highborn servitors summoned to Azeroth the Burning Legion, demons that could smell the arcane magic leaking from the well. The ensuing war between the demons and the Kaldorei destroyed cities and killed thousands, but the Kaldorei prevailed, banishing the demons from their home. The Kaldorei and Azeroth spent the next several thousand years healing, and the demons made good use of that time. They found and corrupted the orcs of Draenor. The orcs lost their shamanistic traditions as they embraced arcane power. With the help of the similarly corrupted human wizard Medivh, the orcs poured through the dark portal onto the continent of Azeroth. So began the First and Second Wars, which ultimately the Horde lost. So, I guess in that case it's very indirect because they would have never been on Azeroth in the first place, but that's a real stretch to say that the Well of Eternity is the cause of the First and Second Wars. Since the demons' orc puppets could not destroy Azeroth, the Burning Legion adopted a new strategy. They attacked Azeroth again, bringing with them the arcane plague that created the undead scourge. Alliance and Horde united in the struggle and destroyed the demon army, but lost much of the eastern half of the world in the process. And still, the Arcanists continue their study. So they're really painting that the fact that magic, and arcane magic specifically, is bad. Okay, so, and that's because it's going back to the Magic and Mayhem rule set and allowing corruption to happen. So I'm going to skim through here now. Affiliations, of course, we have, this is where it talks about the main mages, the Scourge and the Burning Legion. They have their own flavors as well of arcane. And that's because in this book, the Fel is still considered arcane, whereas that gets separated in the current cosmology. Divine magic, and there's philosophy and history of divine magic as well. But I'm not going to go. All right, fine. The humans, high elves, and ironforged dwarves follow this brand of divine magic, while paladins meditate on the philosophy of the holy light. Ironforged dwarves research their past as creations of the Titans. Dedication to the holy light requires frequent meditation on how the self connects with the universe. Paladins use this meditation to connect to the divine within themselves and aid the people of the Alliance. Their steadfast adherence to their faith and morals also gives them the power to smite their enemies with holy might. Although the holy light is not a conduit to the Eternals, its code of morality is strong enough for devotees to honor and believe in. Many high elves have entered the study of the holy light as well, some in an attempt to atone for their addiction to arcane magic, others simply to find a path of power that does not lead to damnation. The Ironforged dwarves recently discovered that the godlike Titans created their race. The Titans freed Azeroth from its elemental rulers eons ago and crafted the dwarves from stone to assist them in creating the Azeroth of today. Since this discovery, the Ironforged dwarves zealously search for any sign of their ancestors or the Titans. The dwarves have rediscovered the power to return to their original forms and turning skin to stone. They firmly believe that other powers are waiting to awaken within them. All they need is the key. The philosophy and history approach to divine magic lends itself to many classes. Most divine spellcasters who follow this route are priests or paladins. And scratch all that. They've definitely changed things, and they focused on alternate the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the contrapuntal forces of void and light as their own realms and their own power. And yes, dwarves can worship the holy light or tap into the holy light or meditate on the holy light, as opposed to the Fel. As opposed to the void. And I'm not sure where necromancy comes into all this. Is necromancy a branch of Fel? Which I think it is, which would tie into how the Burning Legion uses it to create the Scourge in the first place. So I think necromancy is a branch of the Fel, but it could be a branch of the void. I guess we'll explore that more. And they have nature magic as a subset of divine magic. That's why I don't like them trying to shoehorn World of Warcraft magic into the dichotomy of Dungeons and Dragons magic, which is arcane versus divine. It's not that simple. There are more branches in the web of magic for Dungeons and Dragons. And then we do have this Elune, an actual goddess, and that's true that there are not other goddesses here. We have a CGI Tauren. It'd be interesting to see who some of the other ones are. Is she one of the Titans? Is she beyond that? Is she below a Titan? I think that's interesting to try and figure that out. Cenarius is a demigod. There are other ancients. The ancients here are the other demigods we've talked about before. Shamanism is another nature type of magic. And then considering Fel magic and the blood of demons. So these are things that definitely get fleshed out more. Chapter 15 is spell casting. I'm guessing this is a nuts and bolts chapter. How to cast spells, as opposed to World of Warcraft, where they use at magic points, mana. And here, where you have spell slots, which is something that they do now in Dungeons. They still do it now. It's a Dungeons and Dragons, daily preparation, Gaining new spells, spell books. So this is, of course, Dungeons and Dragons instead of World of Warcraft. Scribing spells, divine domains, how to cast a spell, the concentration concept. That actually kind of does exist in that you get that lag if you get hit while you're channeling. And that is sort of, I think, how concentration makes its mark in World of Warcraft. Yeah, then they have very just technical details for that, for counter spelling, spell failure, stuff like that. Combining magical effects, which is neat. That would be cool. Some things. What's that game called? Crud. There's a cool. It's not Dungeons and Dragons, but it's heavily based on Dungeons and Dragons. Dang it! I'm trying. It's a newer, not newer, but in the past, I don't know, less than 10 years. Overhead. Gosh, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. Divinity, something like that. Divinity original, Divinity 2. Some, I think that's what I'm thinking of, but where they do this combining magical effects. It's pretty cool to see a game that does do that. They don't do that in World of Warcraft. And then they're giving us the basics on how spell descriptions are set. Here we have I'm assuming it's a Forsaken, but it could be a Scourge CGI. And yeah, just what goes into a spell description. And that gets us into chapter 16, which is the spell lists. So these are the actual lists, not the descriptions. For Arcanist, now it says Mage, Necromancer, or Warlock can all access these, although they would have, I'm guessing, their own specific ones. There's I don't know if that's just a generic mage casting, maybe Blizzard. Yeah, there are only 5, so the spell lists are definitely condensed. Like, for instance, there's only 5. 9th level Arcanist, Dominate Monster, Mass Hold Monster, Medivh's Disjunction, that's cool. A big Dispel, Spiritual Projection, and Wish. That's it. That's kind of underwhelming. Oh, I see. That's the generic. That's why it's so condensed. They all have access to these. Then mages have their own specific. So let's just glance through and see. Yeah, Arcane Intellect. This is a spell that. So these are the ones that are added into the game. Frost Armor. Frost Bolt, I guess. Frost Nova. Polymorph is, that's not actually, that's from Dungeons and Dragons. Some of these are both. There are things that are definitely just both. And as you get to the higher level ones, Starfall, Time Stop, those could be both, but Starfall I think might be Warcraft. Necromancers, Implant Carrion Beetle. I'm just skimming. Death Quail, that one might be new. They have access to Frost Nova as well. I don't know what that M means. It's probably a different manual, like a specific skill set that you, source book that you need. Some of these are straight up Dungeons and Dragons, and they're letting them keep it. Nothing special. Warlock spells, Demon Skin, a Mount spell. That's cool. Hooks of Binding, I don't know. Oh, look, they have water breathing. That's cool. I have Kilrog. Ner'zhul's Black Tentacle, so they changed the name of that one. That's cool. Rain of Fire, so they're adding these into the spell set. That's pretty cool, actually. Soulstone. That's neat. Dark Metamorphosis. Okay, cool. And then here's the generic healer spell list. That they can all use. These are straight from Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not seeing anything notable that's not. But again, these are I wouldn't expect there to actually be a lot because these are spells that come, yeah, that come from Dungeons and Dragons. Now, Druid specific spells, Mark of the Wild, so that's added in. Level 1 spell. Moonfire, so they've added that spell in there. Neat. There's a greater Moonfire. I guess that would just be maybe if you spec'd it or something like that. Greater Mark of the Wild. Force of Nature. That's a new one. I think Elemental Swarm is actually from Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so not that much. Priest spells. Shield of Faith, Shadow Word Pain, Death Coil, I guess. True Shot Aura. Lesser True Shot Aura for a priest? I guess because you're trying to force them into that class, that ranger style class. So I guess if you're doing that, yeah. Huh. It's weird, yeah, because they keep shoehorning that in. So basically to give Toronto the option to have this, I don't like that. I would have gone a different way. And I guess you can also be an evil one because they have the summoning undead. Starfall, they've added that in there. Shaman spells. They have Flare, but it doesn't do the same thing as Flare does, and that's a hunter move. Lightning Guardians, I wonder if that's supposed to be kind of like the Spirit War. They have War Drums. Okay. Call of the Spirits, but that doesn't do the exact same things. They do have Reincarnate, so that's a Beast Res. B-Res, I mean, I always think of that as Beast Res, but B-Res. Battle Res. Yeah, Elementals Swarm, but still. Okay, and then they have some other domains. As a healer, you can pick an animal domain, which does give you shape change. That's, I guess it would be druid stuff. Death domain, that you summon basically your necromancer. Destruction domain, nuke. Interesting. I think that's got to be new, but I don't even know that from World of Warcraft, unless that was an old one. Elements domain gives you the elemental swarm eventually. The healing domain, yeah, just tons of healing spells. Protection domain, just the shields of faith and holy word shield. Spirit domain gives you called spirits, gives you earthquake. War domain, you have a holy strike. This is probably if you're a paladin, maybe. You get Starfall in that, and True Shot Aura. No, so that's like the Tyrande type. Wild domain, Swift Paws for when you're in animal form. Moonfire, Entangling Roots, Mark of the Wild, Force of Nature. Yeah, so this is like a straight druid. And then the paladins get their own little paladin spell list. Do we see anything? Holy Word Shield. Remove Curse, that might actually be in the game, but they have something like that. Restoration, basically that kind of thing. Okay, and then this is, I'm not going to actually go through these because we just looked at them all, but this is the list of the spells now, the spell descriptions that we just went through. But, I mean, I guess if we wanted to glance, Arcane Intellect gives you a +4 bonus to intelligence. Oh, look, Arcane Missile. That's cool. That's sort of replacing Magic Missile, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. I like how they put the little pictures there. Blade Barrier. And then this is a pretty neat mixture. There's Blizzard of taking Dungeons and Dragons spells and putting it in Bloodlust. I don't know what. Oh, that's a Tauren, and he's lifting a totem like over his head, probably to smash it down. Cannibalize. I always thought it's weird that that's a spell, though. But yeah, it does what you would think it would do. Chain Lightning, yes, that's of course makes its way in. Cause Fear is one Warlock spell. One of the only interrupts that they have. Cone of Cold is in here. Actually, I don't know. I think that's what it's called. True. In and WoW as well. Some of these are not in there, or they're called different things. Like there's not Cure Light Wounds, but obviously there are cure spells. Dark Metamorphosis that makes that's more like a that's I guess if you wanted to play an Illidan style, but this is more because it makes you sprout horns and get strong, but that's more like a Demon Hunter style thing. Death and Decay, yeah, they're putting them in because they are in Warcraft 3, so they're still pushing that in, even though that's a Death Knight thing. Um, so a demon skin that is for warlocks. So this is a big chunk of the book if you think about it. Just listing all these spells. This is partly why it's so long. Like we're only on D's and Detect Undead. That's a paladin thing now. And I'm just gonna, rather than do another video on this, I'm just gonna scan through Drain Life. Concentration spell makes sense. Drain Soul. That is also a warlock move. I like it's making me think of playing my Affliction Luck. I haven't been working on my alts because the new expansion I'm doing all kinds of focusing on achieves. I'm mostly an achievement hunter. I have Kilrog since that scout out. But I'm just focusing on my achievements with my main and taking my time through the content and really just getting like doing all the races. And there's Force of Nature that lets you summon. What does it do? Makes a tree join your command, whereas Greater One gives you 2 to 5 trees. Frost Nova does some damage and makes them chilled, which really just slows them. Anyway, I'm about halfway through the new content, but just focusing on achievements. That because I'm doing so thorough, I am pretty much. I haven't even hit level 70 yet. Again, even though the X-Pack's been out for a month now, but I'm like a couple quests away. But I do have a lot of the achievements, like almost all the Waking Shores ones, and a big chunk of the Honor on Plain ones. Yeah, not seeing anything neat. Holy Sword, that's actually it. Unless your weapon be a +5 weapon, that's actually pretty strong. There's a Plant Carrion Beetle. That's from Warcraft 3. That's not really a game there. I don't know how Insanity comes into play. Invisibility, yeah. Iron Body. Yeah, like Legend Lord, that's Dungeons and Dragons. That's not in the game. Lightning Shield, sure, that's a shaman move. Gives you spell. Yeah. Everybody near you takes lightning damage. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm just Medivh's Mnemonic Enhancer. That's like a version of a Dungeons and Dragons spell. Medivh's Disjunction. That's the one we already read about. That's a dispel. Miracle. That's basically Wish, which they in D&D they no longer have that. Moonglaive is a spell. You throw it, ricochets. Moonfire does damage, and then also applies a dot. Which makes sense. Ner'zhul's Black Tentacles. That's like Ivard's Black Tentacles from Dungeons and Dragons. Basically, they just changed that out. Persistent Image, Lesser Planar. Yeah, these are Dungeons and Dragons spells. Polymorph is. Yeah, see, the original polymorph is OP. Now they keep it OP in the Dungeons and Dragons sense. They don't make it different. They don't basically nerf it into making it be like World of Warcraft's polymorph, which is just like a crowd control, like a hard crowd control. Incarnate, 10-minute cast time, so that's not the same where you can use it. That one makes it to where you can't even use it in battle, whereas it's definitely a battle res. There's another picture of, I don't know, some really messed up looking undead guy. Does not look very nice. Doesn't look like one of the good Forsaken. Although this book does say all Forsaken are evil, which I don't know, I guess. Look at that. So I wonder if that's an Easter egg. It's like a picture of some dude. Silent image. Anyway, that's gotta be an Easter egg. I wonder who that is. Anybody out there, if you made it this far into this video, go ahead and in the comments, let me know if you figure out who that is. That's funny. Soulstone lets you. It does say you can use it the way it is as a res. Yeah, that's what it is for. You can use it as a res in action or as a protection to kind of self-res. It's a pretty awesome spell, actually. Just the fact that its duration is only like 10 minutes, that's the downfall. I always forget to keep it on me when I'm a warlock, if I'm soloing and questing. These are the things you can summon. There's a griffin next to a wild hammer dwarf, tons of summoning nature's allies, summon monsters, summon undead. There's a summon undead table. It's cool, but those spells are cool in Dungeons and Dragons because there's so much variety, but yeah, they're not reflected in WoW. And WoW, normally you can summon one thing or whatever, or you have your pet. True Shot Aura, yep, gives you bonuses to attack, which that's pretty much what it does. Huh, this is some kind of elf. And she's got like some magic and a knife. And in the back we have a Tauren who does not look like he's coming at her with good intentions. Can't even tell what kind of elf that is. It's light-haired, so they don't look like Kaldorei, but they do look nature-ish. So I'm guessing that's a high elf. And then War Drums, morale. It gives you a morale bonus. They've ditched morale. That's no longer a thing. Whirlwind. Oh, this is like the spell Cyclone instead. Of course, the spell Wish, best one in the game, in Zone of Truth. Okay, so I made it take a little bit of long time, but I think we're pretty much at the end. The next video is probably going to be our last one, and we'll be done with this book and move on to the next in the collection of source material books for World of Warcraft, the role-playing game. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Lore of Warcraft. This episode, In the Pipe 5x5.